Hello, I'm Lauren Eisenlohr, Marketing Director for Serendipity Media, the publisher of West Michigan Woman. This is Beyond the Fold, an opportunity for us to dive deeper into the pages of our magazine and tell the story behind the story. And I'm so sorry I missed you guys over the month of July. It was a crazy month. I know everybody was super busy, but we are back and have an incredible interview today. We're fortunate enough to be joined by Olivia Haines. Olivia is the founder and CEO of Olivia Grace Company. She's also our current West Michigan Woman cover star. Now, as the owner of Olivia Grace Company, Olivia curates high-quality meet and greets and events locally and nationally with lookalike characters we all know and love. So everybody from Moana to Tiana to Cinderella, the Sanderson sisters, even the Avengers. Her costuming and performance characters are Disney quality, super high quality, which stems from Olivia's time as a face character performer, aka a princess at Walt Disney World. Olivia.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so great. Thank you so much for having me on today. I love talking about all things magic.
Okay, good, because I have all the Disney questions for you. And I think the first one is, what princess were you?
So, as a face character, you never admit which princess you were, but I was very, very good friends with Snow White and Ariel.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Now, have you always been a Disney fan? Does this stem from childhood?
It kind of does. We were a Disney family. Every year we'd visit my grandparents in Florida, and the Disney parks were just part of that trip. So we got used to going to the parks. I started off being really interested in rides, and as I got older, it turned into princesses. And I was the person where I was in college Googling face characters. What does this mean? What do they do? Do I look like any of them? Could I do this? That type of thing. So yes, it's been, since the beginning. I had all the VHSs. Although I didn't know the word was Disney at the beginning. I always, that weird G thing.
I thought it was a G too.
I thought it was a G.
It is a G, even though
Yes.
it's a backwards G. Yeah,
It's a backwards G. So it was funny, that sort of like light bulb moment where, wait, this is Disney and everything I like has this name on it. So, yep.
So what ultimately prompted you to audition for Disney?
Yes, this is actually a funny story. It was my senior year at Hope College. I had already been accepted to a master's program in marriage and family therapy, and I just wasn't that excited about it. I thought, if I'm going to go to grad school for something, I want it to be something that I'm really passionate about. So I was on my spring break trip to Florida with a group of my cheerleader friends, and there was a audition going on. And so I thought, I think I'm going to sign up for this. I'm going to see if this is even a possibility. And unlike a lot of girls who audition for Disney, I was pulled on my first audition, which is not something that usually happens to people. So I thought, this might be a sign from the universe that this might be where I'm supposed to be for a little bit. So I accepted that full-time role and moved down there. I ended up staying a little closer to 2 years and made magic at Walt Disney World. I did parades and shows and meet and greets and fell in love with it, but my life is here. So we moved back home about 2 years after I auditioned.
So can you audition? Do you have to audition every year for Disney?
There are multiple auditions a year. I mean, this past year has been a little weird, but usually they do auditions based on what they need. So at the audition I went to, I think they were looking specifically for Snow White, Ariel, Rapunzel, Anna, and Elsa. That was right about the time Frozen came out, so they needed all the Annas and Elsas that they could find. And then more recently, they've been hiring for a lot of Tianas and Jasmines. So you just kind of have to follow the Disney audition page and see what they're looking for.
Yeah. So, but once you're a princess, can you be a princess for as many years as you'd like to until you age out? Or
Yeah, that term "age out" is one we use a lot in the community. I mean, it's true because at some point you can't play a 14-year-old Snow White anymore, or Ariel 16. So I think, yeah, most people sign on and they do it either as their little break between college, a fun thing after school, or they do it for as long as they possibly can. We call them the Disney lifers, where they do it for until Disney tells them they can't anymore.
until you become the fairy godmother.
Exactly.
Like, put yourself right in that role. So Ariel 16, can we go back to that?
She is, yes.
Oh, she's so young. She should not have been running away from home.
Snow White's the youngest at 14. Yep. And yeah, so I spent most of my days pretending I was a 16-year-old, which was actually pretty easy to do.
Yeah. So I hear there's a lot of secrets behind the scenes at Disney. So can you shed some light or at least share something behind the scenes that you would only know if you worked there?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to keep a few things still secrets to Disney, but there are tunnels under the parks. So we would use those to get back and forth to our shifts. And I think something that a lot of people don't really know or think about when it comes to especially Disney face characters, we spend more time with our characters than we do with ourselves. So for, 60 hours a week, I was a mermaid. And I was answering questions as Ariel, and I was Ariel. So for those 2 years of my life, very formative years, by the way, because I was in my early 20s. Like, I knew Ariel better than I knew myself. So I think a lot of people don't really know that about Disney, that the face characters take on these characters and they become these characters in kind of a weird way. But
Yeah. So what does your workday look like as Ariel?
yeah, so like those tunnels that I was talking about, I'm going to walk through my favorite shift because there were a bunch of different work days. But my favorite shift was called Parade into Sets. So what I would do is I would get there at about noon-ish, and you check in with the entertainment base and you do your own makeup because you're trained in training how to do your own makeup. And then I would go to the parade start line where the customers would help me get into costume. And I did the Celebrate a Dream Come True parade when I was there. So there's nothing like riding a parade float down Main Street, USA. It's incredible. I
Yes.
loved it. So I would do the parade. It's at 3 o'clock. And then after that, you would finish out the set day with either sets back at the grotto or a few dinner sets at Cinderella's Royal Table, which is the dining experience in Magic Kingdom. So that was my favorite day. And it started with parade, which riding down Main Street, awesome. And then you kind of ride that parade high into meet and greets afterwards.
So you're never just roaming around the park.
Not, when the park first opened, they did that. They allowed the characters to kind of walk around, but I think you would just get mobbed now if you had a character just walking around. There
I
was one day after an event at Fairy Tale Hall where they let the characters, us princesses, walk around the park after it had closed. So it was dark outside, but all the lights were lit. And so we were able to take pictures in front of the carousel and the castle with it all lit up and no guests around, which was just a dream come true.
That's awesome because I took my son there in April and he was so excited to meet Mickey Mouse and he was so bummed because we couldn't find Mickey Mouse anywhere. And in my head, he's just roaming around and you can
Right.
decide, but he is not. And so my son Archer was so mad when he wasn't in Cinderella's castle and he couldn't find him. He just thought he had been lied to about where
Yes.
Mickey lives and he really wanted to find him. But
Oh,
apparently
I understand.
yeah,
Mickey's in high demand, so he was probably off taking care of some sort of business. He runs the park, so he was
very
probably
busy.
out.
That's what I'll tell Archer. I'll
There
tell
you go.
my son, he's a really busy businessman, if you
Yeah,
will.
exactly. I mean, he's got a lot of paychecks to sign, so he was probably out doing that.
There you go. So you are married to your husband, Patrick. When you met him, was it like a fairy tale story? I just imagine your entire life has been a fairy tale. You're always a princess. Was it like that when you met Patrick?
That's really funny. I think everyone thinks that the way they meet their spouse is a fairy tale. We met in college. He played basketball for Hope College, and I was a cheerleader. So we met in the whole cheerleader basketball scene. It was actually, it's really traditional, I guess, if you would say that. So my
Yeah.
friends knew his friends. We went on a couple dates. We studied together. He's just so smart, and I just love how smart he is. So I was immediately attracted to that. And he is also very much a go-getter, just like me, just in different ways. So I think it was a fairy tale, very cliche though, with the basketball player cheerleader.
I love that. And you and I were talking earlier before we got on here that he will not put on the costumes. That's like
I
not
have tried so many times to get him to just put something on. One, he really likes his scruff, and he would have to lose that. But he did say though he might put on the Iron Man costume. Maybe we'll see.
okay, because that's your new character. That's
Our newest character. The suit is taking 6 months to make, so I think he thinks it looks pretty cool and might try it on one day.
nice. And you said that he would have to get rid of his scruff. So let's talk about how you become a character with Olivia Grace and Company.
Mhm.
I'd need to know, like, do you just put out word that, hey, I'm looking for Hercules? Or what do you
Yes.
say?
So we actually do our casting calls and auditions very similar to how most of the theme parks do them.
Okay.
So if we need a character for something, I'll just post a casting call. If we need multiple characters, I'll usually do an audition. And actually, our first audition, it was back in 2017. I thought, I'm going to post an audition notice. If I get 12 people to show up, I will be so happy because that's what I wanted our opening cast to be, 12 people. And we had 86 people show up.
Oh my God.
And I was not expecting it, and it was incredible to see other people get so excited, about something I created. So there's an audition, or most recently with COVID, it's been online submissions, and our cast is full at the moment. But we do have some characters coming up that I'm not going to talk about quite yet. That we are going to meet some new performers for. So keep an eye on our Facebook page. That's usually where we announce everything, and then we'll probably do virtual auditions for a little while longer until we can get back to in person.
Okay, that's super exciting. And
Right.
so if I'm somebody that wants to audition, do you A, have certain criteria in terms of height or hair color or anything like that? And then what would I have to do at the audition for you?
Yes. So each character has a very specific height range that they match into.
Okay.
So princesses are usually 5'3" to 5'6". Villains are 5'6" and above. Our guys usually have to be 5'9" at least, up to about 6'2". And most of that is just because of costume fit. And you want all the princesses to be about the same height. Because if Jasmine is 2 feet taller than Elena, that might look a little funny. So we like to keep everyone around the same height range.
Okay.
And then the audition process is actually really fun. We have a really good time, very informal. People will check in, and then we just, honestly, we do the first cut just based on what people look like. So if you look like what I've got currently on my staff, because we want all of our Cinderellas to look the same, then I'll keep you around for a little bit. But if you don't look like someone that I have on my staff, it doesn't mean you're not pretty. It just means that we don't have anyone that looks like you or a character that fits your face right now. And then if you get kept past that first round, we'll usually do some sort of a movement exercise, which could be a dance or a routine of some sort, because most of our luncheons and dining experiences do involve a dance. And then we'll usually do another cut after that. And then after that, we'll do some monologues as characters that I think might be a good fit. So it's a 3-step process. And
Yeah.
even if you make it all the way through, I still might not have a spot for you, but I keep everything on file. So if there is something that comes available, I can always reach out to people then.
And does everybody only play one character, or do you have people that can play many?
Yes, so we start off with one or two because learning one or two, just like learning one or two people, it takes a long time to really get to know them inside and out. So some of my performers have been here for 4 years and they have, 5 or 6 characters, but most people have one or two main characters that they hang out with the most.
And I have to imagine that is a pretty in-depth process to really train somebody to be those characters. How long is that training process, and what are you doing during that process?
Absolutely. So it is a few weeks. We start by just watching the movie and getting to know the character. We look at, all the aspects of their story, significant locations, side characters, villains, anything that may be important to them. Fundamental elements of the story are what we call them. So like with Cinderella, we've got mice, we've got glass slippers, we've got fairy godmothers, things that they can talk about. Once we get to know the character and their story and their side characters, we jump into how do they move? How do they wave? How do they talk? How would they answer questions? That type of thing. What's their favorite color? What would their favorite food be? We have to know the answers to all these questions. So we start to learn how they would answer things. And then we move into posing because each character does pose differently. They all have different arm movements and placements, and down to like where your middle finger is when you pose somewhere. So like it's really interesting to see how each princess does things because it's all different. Elsa has her famous ice hand that she does. So we have to teach all those things.
So what are the differences between, let's say Cinderella and Belle?
Yeah, Cinderella and Belle are very similar. They're both considered classic princesses, so they pose pretty similarly. But the difference between those two and maybe like Ariel, Rapunzel, Anna, Ariel, Rapunzel, and Anna are all very bubbly characters. They are going to jump up and down and be really excited to meet you. Their movements are going to be bigger. Their waves are going to be up higher in the air, whereas Cinderella and Belle are going to do more classic princess waves. Same with posing. Cinderella and Belle are going to do that classic princess pretty arm out to the side, whereas Rapunzel might be doing a little, I don't know if you can see it, just like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hand on her hip. Anna likes to put her hands on her hips too. And then we have our like adventurous princesses like Moana, who will do her wayfinding hand. So they're all different, and they're all kind of like subcategorized into different sections, I guess.
And now that you say that, it reminds me of the Rapunzel that I saw at Disney the last time I was there, because they did the Princess Parade and Rapunzel was on the back of the last float and she was so bubbly and she was yelling hooray and her arms were up. She was so excited, big
Yes.
smile on her face. My son just loved her and my husband's like, you missed your calling. I'm like,
Oh, yes.
oh
I know. Well, it's not too late. Let me know. But yes, that's a perfect example because you would never see Cinderella jumping up and down like that. She's a lot more classic. And I love that. I love being able to embrace different characters like that.
no. And who, in your opinion, is the most difficult character to portray?
I think the general consensus among all face character performers, both with Disney and with my company, is that Elsa is by far the most difficult to portray.
Really?
Yep. The biggest reason is that she has the biggest character arc out of any Disney princess that I have ever known. She starts off in the first movie as a completely different character than she ends the second movie. So to kind of play tribute to all of those character identities that she has in one 30-second meet and greet is really tough. Also, she's magical. So to be able to pretend that you've got these ice powers that obviously you can't use right now because you don't want it to snow, but you have them and you know how to use them and you can move your body in that way. If you've watched her sing Let It Go or Show Yourself, you know that those movements are not things that normal humans do. So
Yeah.
learning how to do all of those things tied into a really complex character is interesting.
She does have a lot of layers. In fact,
Mhm.
in the first movie, I thought she was a little attitude-y. You
Oh, absolutely. Yep. She comes off almost mean at
Yeah.
sometimes. So you have to pay tribute to that, but you don't want anyone to leave a meet and greet thinking that Elsa was mean. So, you have to be
Having
careful.
a bad day. But so speaking of layers, let's talk about the costuming because it is incredible. And I know it takes several months to create these costumes. What does that look like? If you have a new character, where do you start in creating that costume?
Right. So I am so blessed because I have two seamstresses. They're based out of Wisconsin, just the nicest ladies ever. And they've worked with me to create all of our characters. So what I'll start with is I'll say, I'm looking for Cinderella. And I draw inspiration from the parks. I draw inspiration from movies, from other cosplayers. And they'll send me fabric samples. And Cinderella's dress in particular is amazing because if you actually look at it really closely, we've custom created a pattern that's all embroidered with silver thread all over her dress, and glass slippers are actually hidden in that pattern. So the little details like that have taken a really long time to kind of create and then mix in with all these things. So we start with fabric samples and we end with the finished product that I think matches what you would see at a theme park, which has been my goal since the beginning.
And I heard rumor from the people that came to your house to do your photo shoot and everything for the cover that your Ariel wig, you could not find the right color hair. So
No, and you know how picky I am about Ariel. She was my main fish for 2 years. So the wig that we use as a base wig actually did not exist with any wig suppliers. So my wig stylist, Caitlin, she actually lives in Hudsonville, which is perfect, actually took 3 different strands of red wigs, took them all apart, and then re-put them back together so that when you look at the Ariel wig now, it looks like a completely different color that doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's pretty cool. It's 3 different colors of red.
so all of your characters and your costumes are so high quality. Obviously, you do some national work as well, but is the majority of it local here in West Michigan?
Yes, most of our bookings are right here in West Michigan. That's been my goal since the beginning was to, create magic in Michigan. I moved back from Disney and I went to one of my friend's little girl's birthday parties and she had hired a neighbor girl to be Elsa. And it kind of scared me a little bit because I thought, just because you can't afford to go to Disney every day does not mean you don't deserve the same level of quality characters. So that was kind of the inspiration where no one should be scared by a character. It should look the same across the board. So, yep, bringing that magic to Michigan has always been my goal. But we have also been so lucky that people around the country have noticed and appreciated the effort that we put into things. So we've been booked for events in 36 out of the 50 states. We're working on one in Hawaii right now, which is just amazing to me. And then actually, I haven't announced this yet anywhere, but I have just secured a location in Orlando, Florida. So we will be sending characters a little more full time to Florida. So that'll be awesome.
Wow. Okay, because that was going to be my next question. What's the most interesting place or occasion that you've been requested at?
Right. So
Hawaii or-
we did one event in Texas that was really cool. We did a Little Mermaid event in Texas, and that was really fun to do. But I think probably the ones in Orlando, and it's not so much a booking as in something that I got to do. when the shutdown happened and a lot of cast members at Disney lost their jobs, I was able to take a few of our costumes and wigs down to Orlando and kind of help a few of the cast members who didn't get a chance to say goodbye to their characters, which is, if you've ever performed in a show or ever performed a role, you know these characters mean a lot to you. So if you don't get to do that goodbye set, it's heartbreaking. And it feels like a horrible, horrible breakup. So I was able to bring some characters down and let these performers who've been performing these roles for years say goodbye to their characters. So I think that is probably my favorite thing we've done so far.
Yeah, because it becomes a part of your identity. I
It
have to
does. It
imagine.
does. Yes. So they got to put on the costume one last time and, twirl around with Snow White or hug someone as Cinderella and get some really great pictures to remember their time with their characters.
And how else would you say that COVID has affected things? Because we all know that COVID has taken a toll on people's hopes, aspirations, and it's been difficult with kids. How have your characters come in and really been a light, I guess, in
Right.
this day and time?
Right. So I think with any business, when life throws things at you, you've got to learn to kind of like dodge and adapt. So we went virtual for a lot of stuff. We had never done any sort of video calls or FaceTimes, and we started doing that. And then we also did a lot of pen pal stuff where I was sending letters all over the world from characters to kids everywhere. I mean, there were 13 countries that we were sending. I had to look up a lot of different types of stamps to send letters to people who were just missing the magic. They had a Disney trip scheduled and they couldn't do it anymore. And their daughter really wanted to talk to Cinderella. So we were sending letters and doing video calls throughout that whole time. We were also doing parades once we could finally start getting out again, but still keeping it socially distanced, where we would just have the characters either walk down the street or ride in something cute and wave to the kids. And then I have to tell you, the first time we did an event where we could safely hug a child, we all just broke down in tears, because that's why we do this. We do this because, I mean, how often can you as a little girl hug Belle? Like, that's
Right.
so, to be kind of like kept behind a line for a year and a half and then finally able to just hug her was just, I mean, we all lost it. It was really, really magical.
Wow. And that's not the only way that you help kids. You have the Magic Fund. Can you explain what that is and how that helps?
Yes, we do. So, like I said, my goal from the beginning has been just to create magic, high quality magic, right here at home. And even though we're bringing it right to people's backyards, that doesn't always mean that it's still affordable. So, we have a magic fund in place, and actually, every penny of profit I've made from the business I've put into this. I haven't made anything off of this. I don't even write myself a salary. So, this magic fund is in place to kind of cover a lot of those expenses for either a Make a Wish trip visit or our visits to Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, which we just love doing, to kind of take that financial stress and burden off of the families that still deserve that high quality magic, but maybe couldn't afford it otherwise.
And people can donate to that Magic Fund at your website, oliviagraceandcompany.com, or you also have a Venmo, which
We
is
do.
Olivia Grace and Company. So easy ways if you want to donate to that to, helping some kids' dreams come true. And,
Yes,
you know,
especially after this last year, the requests for Magic Fund sponsored events are coming in like crazy. We've got an event next month with Shields of Hope that we are going to donate our services, but our Magic Fund is completely empty. So if you'd like to help us sponsor that, I mean, these kids are fighting battles that none of us could even imagine. So being able to pay for something should not be something that they're worried about. So if you want to help us sponsor that event, we're sending 6 characters up to Great Wolf Lodge, either Olivia Grace and Company on Venmo, or there's a link on our website.
perfect. And I'll end with this question. So if all of your characters were real people, who would you want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with?
I am going to have to be cliche here and go with Ariel. I mean, I hung out with her for 2 years. I would love to just sit down and
Catch
ask
up.
her if I did her proud.
Yeah. She was your main fish, like you said.
She was my main fish. I mean, she was awesome. And after working with her for 2 years, I've developed such a crush on Prince Eric that I think he's the best prince, and her dog Max is awesome. So I'd love to talk with her.
And I wonder what Ariel would say about Luca.
I I know she's probably met Moana. She's probably met a lot of those characters. So it's interesting how those stories must have aligned at some point.
I know, and Ariel lost her voice to get her legs. Luca
She
just has to go
did.
out of the water, and there he
I
is.
know.
He's fine.
I mean, Ariel never really tried that all the way. So
That's
maybe
true.
That would have worked.
You missed out. She sold herself to Ursula way too soon.
I know. Try everything first.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been a very, very fun interview and so enlightening with things. It's so wonderful to talk to you. You are such a light. And with your 84 characters, oh my gosh, the impact that you can make, the magic that you can bring is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for
Oh,
talking to
thank
us again.
you. Thank you so much. And thank you for appreciating all the work we do for this. It makes it all worth it. So thank you.
Yes, and you guys that are watching or listening, you can go to westmichiganwoman.com and see the latest magazine that has Olivia on the cover. Again, you can also go to Olivia Grace Company and see all of her characters and, request to visit some and meet some in person. But this is Beyond the Fold. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olivia. And until next time, cheers.